Hey, yo, you're tuned in to CRE8 Force, where we create and dominate. That's Kai Billings. I'm Mike Sarge. And today we have a guest who is nothing short of what you call a trailblazer. She's a Navy veteran who's turned her sights to revolutionize support for our veteran community. As an author and podcast host, she has become a beacon of hope, sharing stories that galvanize change and foster a deeper understanding of transition and mental health. Let's give a charged welcome to Jenna Carlton. Jenna, how are you today?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing great today. It's a good day. It's one of those cloudy days, so it's like it's okay to sit inside and just watch reality TV all day. You know what I mean?
For sure. Hey, what's on the bill when you talk reality TV? What's a show you'd be watching in this type of weather?
Have you guys watched The Traitors yet?
The
No.
Traitors.
Mm-mm.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. It's everyone's talking about it. It's like a murder mystery. There's like faithfuls and then there's murderers and they kill one every night and they try to figure it out. It's on Peacock and NBC. It's so good.
Okay.
Like I feel like anyone if you don't like reality TV, you'll
Okay. We're gonna have to check that out then. We're definitely gonna have to check that out. We really appreciate you hopping on to have a conversation with us. For those that don't really know anything about you, could you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what got you started on this journey?
Yeah, so I'm a Navy veteran. I served from 2013 to 2017. I did weather. I was on an aircraft carrier and I got out because the Navy, I like the Navy, but I didn't like my career field and I didn't feel like I could really see myself in a leadership role. So I got out and I studied politics because I wanted to work on Capitol Hill. And so I did an internship there at the House Committee on Veterans Affairs. And I realized, like, no, I don't like politics. This is dog eat dog. It's too much for me. Um, so I just decided to start advocating for veterans. I really wanted to bring younger veterans into the community because I got out, I was 22. I was like, where are other veterans? Not at the American Legion. So I just created an online space and started connecting with others. And that worked into my podcast. And then I created the Veteran Workbook, which was kind of built off conversations that we have. And I take a lot of the things that I learned in the Navy and I look back at a lot of things, and the biggest thing that I look back on is my mindset at the time because it's so different from how it is now. And I love comparing that because, it's just like when you're in there, when you're in uniform, you just have a particular mindset and it's hard to break out of that. And then now as a veteran, I feel like each year is like a new level. I'm like slowly building that new level of consciousness. And so I love comparing that. And that really helps me create a lot of content.
I've got to ask Jenna. Like Mike and I are both Air Force, so with looking at mindset, like how did the culture of the Navy like impact your mindset early on in your career and figuring out who you were?
Oh, yeah. So I feel like I had a lot of pressure to just fit in because I was this Midwest girl. I never been exposed to other cultures. Um, so it was just like, I had the pressure to not only fit in, but just also be friendly. And that led to a lot of drinking. And so there was like that kind of mindset of like, just like having friends and being cool and being fun. That's most important right now. And I felt like kind of the culture of the military kind of enforces that a lot with, like, let's go out for drinks after, or when we pull into port, let's see how much we can drink before we have to go back to the ship. So that was one of the biggest ones, and the Navy's kind of notorious for that, and there's a reason.
Wow. Would you now that like so you had some time where you left the Navy and you were back a part of back to what we call like common folk life, civilian life, right? What would you say was like the hardest part about that transition for you?
Oh, there were so many things. I think one of the biggest ones was isolation because I was not only, 22 going to college with 18-year-olds, I was also pregnant. So that was really hard for me to fit in with other people because my way of making friends was through drinking and, going to parties. And I'm not going to be doing that anymore. So I really just was like, okay, I don't fit in with civilians. My husband was still in. So like I just felt like othered by the community he was in. I couldn't go on base anymore. So it's just like, okay, I don't have the military anymore. So I was just like, I got myself. And then, through conversations, I realized that's kind of the norm for a lot of us as veterans to go through that isolation.
No, is that what inspired the veteran workbook, which I know is a resource tool? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It was a lot of things that I noticed that everyone was going through. And there's four things that we really need to cover when we get out, and that's more of the mental and that emotional transition. And I think first of all, you need to and this takes time, which is reflecting on your service, realizing how it shaped you and how it's shaping your experiences now. And then you need to recreate that structure, because our lives were so structured in the military, what we were wearing, PT every day, what you were going to eat, everything. So you need to recreate that own structure, and that's going to be based off what you value now, not the what the values the military gave you. And then you need to find that sense of purpose and kind of recreate yourself, and that can be fun, but it's also intimidating because, like I said, we really based our personalities off of, not our personalities, but more of just like how we identified with the uniform. So trying to create that identification. And the last one, man, I always forget this. That's why I keep this
No,
close.
you're good.
Um, Plan for your future. I mean, you got to get excited about your future. And that was hard because you were told what mission was next. You were told where you were going to live. So you didn't have your future in your hands, and you kind of got to take that back.
Mm, interesting. Kyle, did you have anything to add to that?
I almost wonder, with everything you said, Jenna, it sounds like the inability to be your authentic self early on in your career kind of sets you back down the line. Um, how do you think the service should tackle people actually bringing themselves to work and not just grabbing the drinking, colloquial, like 23% APR Mustang, like whatever you want to throw into the military stereotype and go along with it? Like for Mike and I, we're trying to be ourselves all the time. But for a lot of our peers, they can't say the same thing.
Right. It's hard because we have it in our minds. We need to be a good employee, and to do that, we need to fit in. We can't stand out. It's better to just stay under the radar. And a lot of times, what your work values and where you're going to the workplace don't align with your personal values. And so that causes you to not feel your most authentic self. Um, and that's hard because sometimes, like you're in a job and you need that paycheck and you don't want to ruffle feathers. You don't want to put yourself at risk, especially veterans. When we get out, we're just like, I need to get a job. I need that income back. So it's kind of a, almost like you have to mask yourself at work sometimes if you're in a position like that. But there are core things that you can always stay true, and you can slowly learn to set those boundaries. And that took me a long time, and I'm still doing that. So yeah, the book kind of walks you through a little of how to do that.
So I wanted to ask you about something because normally when there's a conversation about veterans, sometimes you could almost go down the rabbit hole of it always being negative, like, um, because there are a lot of things that are happening. There are veterans that aren't being taken care of. There are veterans that are struggling just to get their health care, or being, but like how many times do we see someone that's homeless on the side of the road? And oftentimes if you have a conversation with them, you find that they were veterans, that they served. Right. But I also want to speak to the other piece, because there is a lot of good that happens. And so I wanted to ask you, what is something that's been exciting for you, or something that maybe that like positively, like you learned about yourself transitioning out of the military?
Yes, and you're right. There's a lot of pain in our community, but there's also a lot of opportunities as well. And that's kind of what I found. I mean, I've just been invited to rooms simply because I'm a veteran, and that has opened up so many doors. And what I've learned about myself through that is, I was someone who, I wasn't like a dirtbag sailor. I was, I had all my qualifications, but it took me a long time. Like, I'm not a good test taker. I failed a lot of boards, and So, and I kind of took that as like, hey, this just isn't your thing. You're not an academic person. But since I've gotten out, I've realized like if I apply to things that I actually care about, I can do great work and I can be successful. And I did really good in school. And, when I can be creative, it really helps me use my best power, my best superpower. It's normal to feel kind of doom and gloom when you get out or even like about that. And it's really just the uncertainty because we don't know what's next. Just like think about when you were leaving for boot camp, you didn't know what was next. So it was kind of scary, but you had like a reference of what it would be like. And oftentimes when we get out of the military, we don't have those references. Like we don't have a paycheck. We don't have a place to live yet. So it's very uncertain. So I'd just stay focused on things that you can control and let go of things that you can't. Reach out to resources. There's so many for us, and there's a group for everyone for veterans. So just don't be afraid to put yourself out there. And I know it feels like so daunting because you don't want to, but there's some great communities out there.
So if anyone's interested in anything you're doing, whether that's your vet chats, your workbook, where can they find you and where can they find any of your content?
Best place is Instagram at the Millennial Veteran. And in my bio, I have a link to the workbook, to vet chats. You can always DM me and we could collaborate on something. So yeah, that's the best place. Instagram, like a true millennial.